Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, where leadership meets entertainment. We delve into the issues that leaders face both personally and professionally. In today's episode, Are You a Leader in the Bedroom? We're going to discuss the hot topic of sleep. Not only will we provide insight on how to get a better night's rest, but we are also going to take a look at a unique phenomenon taking place called sleep divorce. So stay with us.
Wow, sleep divorce. That sounds interesting.
It is.
Kristin, as you and I have talked, this is a personal issue for me. I basically struggled with sleep pretty much my entire life. My mother said that I would get up very early in the mornings. I can remember getting up, on Saturday mornings at like 8 o'clock. But I do want to stress that I am sleeping better now. And part of that, I always say get a PhD in you. Part of that was researching myself. So I started keeping a journal on the things that I ate, the level of stress, things like that. And I would note when I would sleep better, and I would try to replicate that, of course. So the two primary factors, it turns out for me, and we talked about this when we were setting New Year's resolutions, is meeting my sleep window or my circadian rhythm. And for me, I think my body says, like, if it's after 11 o'clock, I think my body is saying, let's party, it's on.
Right.
And so that's part of what I am working on. And then the other is flat out workouts. I had this friend of mine who he stayed here with me for a little while during the COVID thing when he was moving back to Charleston. And I noticed the guy goes to bed at like 8:30 every night.
Wow.
And he got up at 4:30 and he would go into the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. He used to work for me, and he did CrossFit. So I asked him one night, I said, man, you are on such a strict schedule. I love it. And I said, do you ever have trouble sleeping? He said, no, the key is wear your body out. So he said, when you work out that early in the morning, he said, by 3 p.m., I'm yawning.
Right.
I'm ready to sleep. So anyway, that was the two things for me. But if you're listening, you need to research yourself. If you're struggling with sleep, the answer is probably out there. You just got to find it. Right. But a lot of times, Kristin, I would read about sleep and they would mention all these negative effects, and it made me worse. I would lay at bed at night thinking about if I don't get a good night's sleep, those 20 health factors are going to happen.
Right.
So for this episode, we're not going to focus too much on all the negative effects of sleep deprivation. We are going to look at solutions. That's it. And this sleep divorce thing you talked about.
Right. Well, before we go into solutions, I do want to give some stats because I thought it was really interesting when I was researching for this episode. We all know the benefits of a good night's sleep and the detriments of lack of sleep. But because over 70 million Americans, that's a staggering number,
wow,
suffer from some form of sleep deprivation, I'm going to share with you what happens after 24 hours, 36 hours, 48 hours, and 72 hours without sleep. So at 24 hours, it's compared to having a blood alcohol level of 0.10. And so basically that is above the legal limit to drive in most states. I actually was wanting to look into which states allow that level, but I didn't get that far. At 36 hours, it can have intense effects on your body, which includes your appetite, metabolism, your body temperature will actually start changing, your mood, and your stress levels. Now at 48 hours, that's 2 days without sleep, most people have difficulty even just staying awake, and they will likely experience what's called micro sleeps. And that's where the brain is in a sleep-like state, and they can happen involuntary. And following one of these micro sleeps, you might feel confused or disoriented. So staying awake for 48 hours will also begin to disrupt your immune system because inflammatory markers, which help your body prevent and target illnesses, start to circulate at increased levels. Now at 72 hours,
Wow.
the inability to think or control emotions and depression, anxiety, paranoia sets in. And yes, this is funny. It was a commonly asked question on the search engines. You can die from a lack of sleep, but it's not from merely just not sleeping. It's from the inability to think and making poor decisions that can lead to accidents. So a sad example, an old friend of mine that I worked with at a restaurant years ago, her older brother, he was in his early 20s and he actually drowned in a relatively shallow body of water because he had experienced some sort of like psychotic break and he hadn't slept in over 72 hours. And he was out in the water and likely forgot how to swim. And he did end up drowning. So
Wow.
that wouldn't have been the case if he would have been adequately
Right.
rested.
So, Kristin, a lot of people, and I think our audience will appreciate this story. Methamphetamine is also street name crank. It speeds you up.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a case once I worked with the DEA, and we knew that there was a big meth house going on. And here's a funny side note. Meth dealers would put black trash bags or black plastic over the windows. They don't want any light. Also, back in the day, there would probably be 50 VHS tapes of pornography. And a lot of people don't know that aspect of a lot of the meth users, but it's big in those circles. So they've got this house under surveillance, and every night the guy that owned the house would go outside in the yard and start digging holes. And he would dig and dig to maybe 3 a.m. Then he'd go back in. Still under surveillance. Next night he came out, dug some more holes. And this goes on for quite some time. So the DEA and the locals that were working this case, they are so curious. They were wondering, are we going to find cash? Are we going to find, who knows? Is it going to be a body? Like, this guy's digging these holes.
Yeah.
So anyway, they finally get into position. They've got enough evidence. They get a warrant. They go into this house. They arrest everyone. So they're interviewing the guy, and they ask him, what's in the holes. And of course, he keeps saying nothing. So here they are, early morning, DEA agents, cops, everybody's digging these holes up. They keep digging. There's nothing in there. They can't find anything. So I think they were using a Geiger counter or whatever. They did everything. So they kept interviewing him. And finally, he literally said, I told you there's nothing in there. He said, I just wouldn't sleep for days, and I had all this nervous energy, and digging holes made me feel better.
Oh my gosh.
He was digging up. So they were a little, I think, disappointed when they realized the holes were empty. But that tells you also the effect. Of course, a combination meth wires you, and then you don't sleep. Right. I've interviewed guys that had crazy hallucinations because that's part of the thrill. Is you go days without sleep, then you start hallucinating. It's like, acid, lysergic acid, diethylamide, those kind of things, LSD. And that's part of the thrill of it. And I've had, and maybe sometime we'll talk about it, I won't go into it, but some of the hallucinations were bizarre that these people would see. But anyway. All right. Wow. I thought our listeners might enjoy that.
I enjoyed it.
I'm going to give some quick tips to optimize your bedroom for sleep. Now, again, I want to stress, you need to know what works for you. Also, there may be just some budgetary issues here, because it is proven that if you set your bedroom temperature low, we're talking like 65, at least under 70, that it allows you, it's more opportune for sleep. It's just the reality. Even if you snuggle up under a lot of covers, which is what I do. And also blackout, I've got the blackout curtains, and I can tell you this, if there's a crack in that and some light comes through, my body says it's time to get up. So whatever you need to do, but you black out the windows. A mattress is important. I know everybody can't just run out and buy a new mattress, but sometimes you can rotate your mattress. And it works almost as good as getting a new mattress. So try that. And your pillow, oh my gosh, your pillow is so important. And it's worth the investment. How much is a good night's sleep worth? That's what you've got to ask yourself.
Exactly. I have to tell you, I have an old lady pillow. So it's like, that's what I call it, because it's one of those that supports your neck. it's like shaped where it has one's a little higher than the other, but it has a mound and then it goes down and then it mounds again. And it was because my neck, I felt like I had to hold it in place when I was on a normal pillow. So I finally found this, and $40, and I sleep
Yeah.
like a baby most nights.
Yeah, I went through a bunch. I've got the My Pillow, and it's really comfortable. And
Yeah.
but that is so important, your pillow. And again, this is not always possible, but open a window. Fresh air is really
Mm,
good. Now,
yeah.
I don't have that option. So that's something that, again, is specific to the individual. And earplugs, if you need to, like if you sleep with someone that snores, for me, white noise is a must. And I've been
Yeah.
doing this for years. I play YouTube on my phone, and it is a thunderstorm, and I just relax when it's sleeping. So I just imagine that there's a thunderstorm, and that's helped me a lot. But if you are a light sleeper, then that may be the answer for you. Now, some people
Oh,
like a
yeah.
fan, they like different types of noise. And there's Chris and I've joked about ASMR, but I know people who use it. That's when people make those weird,
Hmm.
all those weird sounds on the mic.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
might get a
I like,
job.
you know what's funny, Ron? I actually enjoy the sound of baking soda being broken apart, like the clumps of it. I know that sounds crazy, but apparently I'm not alone because there's so many YouTube channels dedicated to breaking apart baking soda. It's insane.
Oh my
But
God.
I have a funny noise machine story because, I
Okay.
mean, technically I have two of them, but one of them, I was in Dallas with two of my girlfriends and we were just having a girls' trip. And I've always had either a fan or white noise, and I cannot sleep in silence like you. So I had called the front desk. Of course, we had had a few glasses of wine at this point. I called the front desk at like 2 a.m. and was like, do you have a noise machine that you can bring up? I don't know where I thought I was, but apparently the plaza. But they had no idea what I was talking about. And she goes, you mean a radio? And I'm like, no. She thought I was so backwoods that I didn't know what a radio is actually called, a noise machine. So, anyways, she ended up telling me, put your channel in between stations. And that doesn't work anymore.
Not now.
Yeah, not now. I'm like,
You should have
what
brought
year is this? What year
Kristen,
is
you
this?
should have brought your transistor radio with you.
Exactly. But you know what's funny? Now I do bring the little noisemaker. I have an extra one that's small for travel, and I bring it even though my friends don't, they personally, these two who I travel with often, they don't use one, but they don't mind if I have it on low, like on my side of the bed. So, but that's a huge deal for me.
Yeah, Kristen, we could go on with these stories, but I have to tell this one. I went to an FBI defensive tactics instructor school in Dearborn, Michigan. And it's a week of, intense training. It's 8 hours a day. So I'm generally pretty dark skinned. And it's so funny because I have a picture. I'm not sure where it is now, but I had a guy contact me who also was a U.S. probation officer. And he found out that I was going. Ironically, I went to college with his wife, didn't know him, but knew her, and he figured it all out. So he says, man, I'm looking forward to meeting you. And we're best friends to this day, by the way. Just called me 2 days
Nice.
ago. He lives in Virginia. So his grandmother lived outside of Dearborn. So I asked him, like, I don't know, the conversation led, are you staying at the main hotel? And he said, no, I'm going to drive in. I'm going to stay with my grandmother. So he shows up, and you have to know him. He's never late for anything. He shows up like 30 minutes late the first morning. And he comes to me and he's like, man, I need a big favor. And it's just so, if you just knew him, I call him Uncle Fester on steroids. He doesn't have a neck. He's like muscular.
Oh my
So he
gosh.
says, I need a big favor. Is there any way I could bunk with you, stay in your room? And he said that traffic was unbelievable getting here. So I said, yeah, man, sure. No problem. He didn't bother to tell me he snored like a bear coming out of
Oh
hibernation.
no.
Kristen, I'm not exaggerating. There was
Oh.
no way to fix the TV. None of there. I think I even tried to fix the TV, but it would be like, even if he got normal, then it'd be like
Yeah.
a big
Oh my
one.
gosh.
So
The
there was one
worst.
night, I've heard of people doing this. I took my covers, I threw them in the bathtub, I put a pillow, and I probably got 3 or 4 hours sleep. But the funny part
Ah.
is, I was, I was not arrogant, but I was highly skilled, probably the most skilled person there because I was competing. Like, this was my world
Oh
and
my
I was in
gosh.
shape. There is a picture of the group at the end of that week. I look so pale. It looks like I'm
Oh,
sick.
no.
I had no sleep. And
Oh,
so anyway, I still rag him over that. But if you are, sleeping with a snorer
oh,
and, you don't want to smother him with a pillow, you need to figure out something
yes.
to do.
Yes.
So white noise might be the answer, but for that
Oh
one,
my
I would
gosh.
need an 8'8" white noise. Like it's got to be huge. So anyway,
Oh, no, I think that's really good that you bring that up because that is something where if you're going to be a leader in the bedroom, right? That doesn't necessarily only mean your bedroom at home. It means when you're traveling for whatever reason, could be for work, could be for pleasure, you also need to understand that getting a good night's sleep is equally as important then. And so like my mom, oh, she'll be so mad at me, but she snores. And so I have the last time we were in Dallas, visiting family, we shared a hotel room. And it didn't matter that it was two queens and she was on the opposite side of the room. I didn't sleep at all. I still have PTSD from it. It was 3 nights of no sleep, which makes me crazy. Most people crazy, as we just learned. But I'm so triggered by that. I don't even want to stay at that hotel again because I think of being sleep deprived. Literally, I told my mom because we're going back in a few weeks. I am not staying at that hotel. I have PTSD. And she thought I was crazy. But I have drawn my line. I will not be sharing a hotel room with her. And I won't be staying in that hotel for a while because it brings back not being able to sleep for 3 nights.
no, I'm totally with you. I went to Nashville, as you know, 2 weeks ago, and the guy, my buddy that I went with, he snored. I told him I wouldn't mention it, but I guess I lied. Um, I was ready to murder him, and I'm traveling tomorrow, as you know, Chris, and I'm speaking at a big
Yeah.
conference. And when I pack, I make sure that I've got everything that I might need. Sleep is a focus for me,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, I'm going to finish packing tonight, but I've got the stuff that I need, especially phone charger. I keep in my backpack extra stuff. I keep an extra shaving kit so I won't forget anything. But sleep is a big factor because you get up early. I'll be up early Tuesday morning, and I'm live. I'm on.
Right,
You got to
right.
be able to
Well,
think straight.
think about our last episode and we talked about the restaurant scenario. And it's like, would you if your food came cold, would you send it back immediately? Would you ask the group what they think? Or would you just kind of let it go? You see how I responded with, I would just let it go, right?
Mhm.
That's because to me, cold food is not going to cause me the anxiety and horrible feeling that a night of sleep would cause me, right? So it's like I can be very assertive when it comes to my sleep, but with my food being cold, it's, you pick your battles. But when it comes to an adequate night of sleep, it is okay to be assertive and set boundaries.
Totally agree. I totally agree.
All right. What do you think about that? They're talking about painting walls a bluish tone in the bedroom. I don't think it's necessarily the fashion statement these days or the home decor color, but apparently it's proven to give a restful sleep.
Oh, man, my purple bedroom. I'm gonna have to
I know
anyway.
mine's gray, so it's not too far
Also,
off.
Kristen, you and I have talked a lot about this. It's the clutter, and
Mm,
now that I told you your New Year's goal made me focus more, but
yes.
I have been putting things up, and there's something about if you leave stuff piled everywhere, there's something about that that's not restful.
Right.
And if things are neat and tidy, and another thing that I've heard people do is write their stressors down at night, just write them down. I've also talked to someone who does the adult coloring. Like this person said
Yes.
they had never slept and they started doing that, and it's so relaxing.
Mm.
And Kristen, I've mentioned this, and I'm not recommending this, but I put my light on dim, and I work a crossword puzzle. I play a game of solitaire, and I read a little bit, and it's helped. It's helped a
Well,
lot.
that's good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know. I think that clutter is important or not having clutter because I think about people, and I'm guilty of doing this when I'm traveling by myself. I only sleep on a very small piece of the bed, like very much to the side of the bed, right? And it's tempting to put my suitcase and my clothes and makeup and whatever else on the other side of the bed. But then when you think about it in the middle of the night, not only can you not ensure your covers are right, you can't adjust them. It's more difficult too because you have them weighed down by all this crap, but it just doesn't mentally allow you to have that peaceful rest. So if you sleep alone, I highly suggest not utilizing the other half of your bed as a dumping zone for everything else that didn't fit in the chair in your bedroom. All right. So in the intro, I mentioned the phenomenon called sleep divorce. And I actually first heard of this on social media as many celebrities are promoting this lifestyle. I have to put in there, it's mostly female celebrities. And it's not what you think. It's not the wife banishing her husband to the couch. And you know what's funny? I tried that once after an argument, and we've been married 17 years. I was like, go sleep on the couch. Like I didn't want his energy around me. And he goes, nope. And he rolled over and went to bed. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess he knew that, adequate sleep was really important. Good for him.
He also knew you probably couldn't throw him out. So
I know. I'm like, wow. Has anyone else experienced where the guy just goes, nope.
Let us know.
Let us know. I think I'm like, wow, okay. If I didn't want to be around him, looks like I was going to have to go have the achy back from the couch. But anyhow, I just, went to bed and figured it out. But okay, so the sleep divorce that celebrities are talking about is an alternative sleep arrangement or like a sleep separation. So for instance, separate beds or even separate bedrooms, it's a growing trend. And a recent study is showing recent study by the Better Sleep Council shows that 1 in 5 couples are already sleeping separately most of the time. And the main cause is incompatible sleep habits. And some of these are very understandable. We just talked about the snoring or a CPAP machine. Those can be very noisy. Or the need for white noise. And maybe someone's partner needs complete silence, right? Different temperatures. You and I both like a cooler room. I know quite a few females who crank the heat up when they go to bed.
Yeah.
That wouldn't work for me. People have restless leg syndrome, and that would just be obnoxious laying next to somebody if they're kicking all throughout the night. That's a whole other issue. Insomnia or a blanket hog. I mean, the list really goes on.
No, it's true. And Kristin, my parents have a great marriage, but they haven't slept together in years. I mean, I guess they get together occasionally. I don't want to think about that, but they sleep in different beds. And I know a lot of people, especially as you get older. This is TMI, but about 3:00, I'm gonna have to go to the restroom. I found out you pee a little more when you get a little older, so it just is what it is. So I do see this, I see some benefits to that. I think people have to be careful. They have to know their own marriage, their own boundaries. But I think that's been going on for years. I know they're calling it sleep divorce, but I think that's been happening a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kristin, for people who are still listening, you're going to be glad you did. We've got a list of some things that people have said in their sleep, and we probably should have solicited this more in our social media groups because I'm sure there's a lot more funny stories. But I'm going to give you a few, and these comes from people who posted about their partner talking in their sleep. So this first one, some of them we don't have last names. The first one was Joanna Hardy. She posted, "Good morning to everyone except my partner, who at 2 a.m. mid-dream sat bolt upright in bed, terrifyingly shouted in the dark, 'Will there be a buffet?'"
That's amazing. Oh my goodness.
This one was titled Angel Story. It said, "My ex, who works in restaurants, used to take orders out loud in his sleep. So I used to mess with him, saying things like, 'Excuse me, I ordered the coffee cake,' or 'This steak is overcooked.' And he'd get so flustered and say things like, 'Right away, ma'am.' It was hilarious every time," she said. This one came from Bernadette. "One night, my sleeping boyfriend woke me up by poking me in the shoulder, then shouted, 'Boo, boo,' all the while giving me the thumbs down, then rolled over onto his back and folded his arms with a little giggle."
Oh my gosh.
This came from Dr. Sandy Hughes. "A friend's father used to sleepwalk. His mother woke up at 2 a.m. to find his father opening, shutting the blinds in the bedroom. She asked what he was doing, and he said, 'I don't know, but they've got the wrong damn man for this job.'" Jake Archibald said, last night my other half rolled over and whispered, probably not going to need those parachutes.
Oh my gosh, random.
And this one I have to tell my daughter, it was under bad circumstances. She had several, but this one was really funny. My son-in-law told me this. This is when she was in that car accident, and she was on some morphine drip, I think. But he said about 3:00 in the morning, she's flat on her back. And if you're looking, she shot her hand straight up toward the ceiling, and she said, that's it. I'm running for president.
That's amazing.
And then one more as a bonus. I thought
All
this
right.
was just so hilarious. This girl said that she was having a sleepover and with a friend. And her friend just said, just put it in the wash machine and all your wishes will come true.
Oh, I love it. Hey, I wish that was the case. Those are so great. I have to share on that topic. Oh my gosh, I think I was like 8 or 9 and I was at a church camp and I was nervous to go to church camp by myself. So my mom signed up to be the nurse, even though she doesn't know anything about first aid. But so she was there, but just not with me in the same bunk. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I yelled, Mom. And everyone was like, who is that? Who is that? And I laid there totally still and never fessed up to it, though I'm sure they realized it was me. And then another time at a sleepover, and I was like 14 for this one, I yelled, Kelsey, give me my CDs back. And that's my sister. And of course, you can't deny it when you're actually saying your sister's name. So that was embarrassing. And I'm still friends with them. And they give me a hard time to this day. Pretty good. All right. So when researching this topic, I learned about censorship rules called the Hays Code. You're a history buff. You probably already knew about that, but it impacted the movies and TV shows. And basically, couples could not be shown sharing a bed. So that's why you often saw couples in twin beds separated by a nightstand. And it gets better. If a couple was shown in bed together for any reason, one of the actors had to have a foot firmly planted on the floor just to be sure the audience didn't get any ideas. And I don't know about you, Ron, but I've only heard of putting one foot firmly on the floor to help if you have the spins after drinking a few too many glasses of wine or a beer.
I did. I knew that rule was in effect. I didn't remember the Hays Code.
Yeah,
the name of it,
super interesting.
I didn't remember the foot on the floor. That's interesting. Boy, have we come a long ways.
Right. Maybe too far.
Yeah,
I think the pendulum.
I wasn't saying that in the best of ways.
I know. I'm like, now you can just do whatever you want.
Oh,
There's
my goodness.
Cursing in commercials, all sorts of stuff.
You know, I can't get past sleep divorce. Should we go into a few more?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so sleep divorce, we've said it may decrease intimacy because separate rooms may create some emotional distance. I'm sorry. Disconnection.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've never interviewed anyone that's done this, but anyway, it might hurt a couple's sex life, and certainly cuddling and that type stuff. What do you do, Kristin? You think they put it on the schedule, maybe like Wednesday?
So interesting. I know that would be really tough. And I have to tell you, like my husband worked night shift for 12 years and he was only home maybe 2 nights a week, maybe 3 sometimes. And it is difficult. It can not only the sex life piece of it, but just that emotional connection. There's something at night where I used to joke around, I felt single at night, not like I acted like I was, but you just watch whatever you want, act however you want, eat in bed if that's your jam, right? It's just a whole different shift in mentality.
And, you know, I think there's so many people, and I don't mean this in a disgusting way, sleeping with their animals. I've talked to so many people, and it's about that comfort.
Right.
They like that comfort. But, Kristin,
you're talking about like dogs and cats.
Yeah.
You never know in today's world.
Yeah. I have a teddy bear, but we won't get into that. But, and of course, one person or the other might feel insecure, like, did I do something wrong, or is it sending a confusing signal? And because, you know, at the beginning of a separation, I've lived through this. One of the first things you do is sleep in separate bedrooms. And I know there's a lot of people listening know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's a really difficult time if you're going through and you're in an in-house separation. That's a very difficult time. And I just feel for people who are going through that. You may be listening and you're going through that, and it'll pass. It will pass. You'll get through it eventually.
Yeah.
And of course, resentment and all the other things that could go with sleeping separately. So
Right.
I thought that was worth visiting. Anything else to add on that, Kristin?
Well, yeah, I think, to your point, imagine being taken aback by your husband, wife, partner just saying, I think we should sleep in separate bedrooms. Like unless you have if to be successful in this sleep separation, if you really feel you need to explore that, then both parties need to be comfortable with the arrangement and willing to sort out the concerns if and when they arise. And, without sufficient communication about it, your sleeping arrangement can once again become a bone of contention. So
Yeah.
that communication is really important.
Kristin, how did you and Dave handle this? There was honestly probably 4 or 5 nights a week I would wake up in the morning with a different daughter in the bed when my daughters were younger. And it was
Yeah.
always me. They'd come and poke me on the shoulder,
Right.
but you forget about it. You're half asleep. I'd just pick them up and set them in the bed. And, at some point, of course, that ends. But I thought it was so funny. I would wake up and wonder which one was in the bed with us because it was such a
Yeah.
routine. Did you deal with that?
Oh my gosh, I did. But again, with the night shift, it was generally me. I was the one handling it. And so it actually, because he was gone at night, it made it easier because it was no big deal if one of them climbed in. But I'll tell you what, growing up, there were times when I had a nightmare or something, and sleeping in my parents' bed was not allowed.
Mine either.
And yeah, interesting, right? And so my mom would be like, you can sleep on the floor next to my bed. So I was like, well, if that's as good as it gets, I might as well stay in my room. So it's just interesting. Everyone handles it
I
differently.
think there was a few times they would take me back to bed, maybe tuck me in or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, you weren't going to climb in bed with them. And
Yeah.
by the way, I had to coach someone who was having trouble with their kid, and the kid it was a single mother, and the kid was sleeping with the mother. And I said, look, I think it's time there's got to be some distance there. You got to stop
Right.
allowing that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I do think that was contributing to the problem. So
Yeah, I agree. There, as much as you may not mind, right, in that situation, like for me, even though my husband wasn't there at night, most nights, I still knew there needed to be that time where my kids were in their rooms and I was able to have my downtime, even though it was relatively easy because they were sleeping next to me and I could watch what I wanted, dink around on my phone if that's what I wanted to do. It's still, when they're right there, you're not able to fully turn off and just
yeah.
decompress.
Well, Kristin, people won't have to worry. Before long, the AI mates are apparently progressing. So
Oh, good Lord.
you'll be able to order. We did. If you haven't listened to the episode on AI, you need to. But I did read an article about that. But I was thinking, I guess you would get used to it I'm not supporting it. I'm saying it would freak me out to be laying there with something I knew wasn't human that could
Oh, yeah.
communicate with me. I don't know how people do
Yeah,
that.
no, thank you.
I've seen too many
yeah.
Chucky movies, I think, for that to happen.
Yeah, it's something out of a horror show. I just posted something AI is insane. I think Microsoft just put something out that they are going to have a computer chip facility in the United States that's 100% ran by AI.
Yeah.
So it's progressing rapidly, and we're going to be obsolete soon if we don't watch.
Yeah, I'm holding out. I'm kidding. All right, so let's conclude this. But thank you for staying with us. We really appreciate you guys, and it is our desire. We do try to help you in leadership and in life, and sleep is such an integral part. And we're approaching episode 50, and we're kind of focusing 2 or 3 episodes on your well-being. And I found it very interesting. No matter what was happening in my life, if I didn't sleep well, I couldn't enjoy things. I would only be, a certain level of happiness, as you would call it. And I think you do have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Right.
And there is those health factors that come in and all these things. So what I would encourage you to do, if you're listening and you do struggle with sleep, don't give up. Go back to the drawing board. The answer may be out there. And I'm going to leave this one little thing that I found, and I may have mentioned it before, but I was reading on sleep. I've read everything. And there was this obsolete article. It was old, and it was contrary to everything I'd ever heard. It said, do light calisthenics. When I was academy director, especially, I would lay down some nights and it felt like my heart was just racing. I could feel it beating in my chest.
Yeah.
A lot of stress, a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I got up one night and I tried it. Now, it can't be a full workout, but for me, I got up and did like 25 push-ups. And now, Kristin, and I didn't add this in the beginning, but I do kettlebell swings. I do 40. I found my sweet spot. I do kettlebell swings, then I go up. What happens is your heart rate goes up, and if you can't see me, my hand is going up, and then it settles back down, and for me, it goes a little lower than it did before I did that. Now, again, you got to find your own sweet spot, but that's just some intricacies that if you do your own research, you might be able to find something. And also that bedtime, I know there's so many people like me, you don't like to go to bed, but there is a sleep window. But I would experiment because you enjoy life a lot more.
Oh, yeah. I want to just share one last thing, because you said early on, and you've said this in multiple episodes, get a PhD in you. The other day, I was feeling like I needed to achieve more. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get up at 5:30 a.m. and I'm just going to achieve all day long, right? And it felt great in the morning. I got up. That's when my husband gets up. So it was easy for me. I got up, started getting things taken care of, scratching things off my list. But by 7 p.m., I was really grouchy and was just over it, right? And so I went to bed really early that night. And then the following day, I woke up at my normal time, which is more like 7:30. And I felt so much better. So the PhD in me in this case is 5:30 is just not right for me unless I have to. For me, it's 7:30 and then going to bed at 10:30. And I felt a huge difference. And I wasn't grouchy towards my kids after 7 p.m. Like I realized and maybe I could work my way to that point, right? But it just wasn't right for me. At least it's not right now.
I was going to tell you, you're right. And that may be best for you. The fitness guy did tell me, because I started doing what he did. And I said, my God, I'm miserable. This is killing me. He said, your body has to, he said, it's going to take you like about, 25, 30 days to really change your rhythm.
Adjustment period. So, yeah. I could see it.
Take us home, Kristin.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you for joining us in this episode. And we hope that exploring leading in the bedroom has provided valuable insights into how it can impact leadership in the home and outside of the home. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review, and stay tuned for more engaging topics in the future. And until next time, lead with intention and rest well.
Be the leader you're meant to be.
We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.